It's been a minute. Everyone's a little busy. It's been Eid, been Ramadan. People have got new jobs. People are here, there, and everywhere. One thing that hasn't changed is Gary Neville's making outlandish statements again. And this time it's to do with Phil Foden. He's basically said that Phil Foden is on Bellingham's level. I think in the video he actually says there's certain players for England that you should just be able to play at any given time. Jays, I'll start with you because I feel like I already know Connor's opinion because we've had this conversation a few times about Foden. Where are you with this Foden, Neville, Bellingham
If
situation?
anyone watched the video, I stand probably somewhere around where Ian Wright stands. His reaction was quite funny that day. Um, I just think the problem is I don't want Foden to get all this hate, and I know it's like mounting up, but it doesn't help when Gary Neville is continuing to do this and continuing to put him in conversations that he shouldn't be in. It's okay for Foden not to be that guy. It's okay for Foden to be droppable because some players are. There aren't many players that are undroppable for England. Jude is 100%. Watch England. Watch the 40 appearances that Foden has made for England, and nothing about that suggests that he's undroppable. I understand that he won Player of the Season for City last season, but he has not been performing at that level for England ever. So this idea that Pep created a system that suits him so well that gets him in the half space to get it on the half turn and shoot, that doesn't exist in the England team. So we can keep talking like this thing will exist that doesn't, and you can try and build the whole team around him, or you can simply say it's okay that Foden isn't going to be a starter. If something changes in future, maybe, but Saka is the right winger for England. Jude is the number 10 and Kane is up front, and we've seen him play left wing. It doesn't work. Gordon, Rashford, there's enough players in that position. Even Palmer, I'd probably have ahead of him because he's more dynamic. Even players like Eze and Morgan Rogers, I'd rather have on left wing. Just
So
because,
this is the question I would have. Right? Is like I had a chat with one of my mates and he said he wouldn't even have. It wasn't my mates actually. It was just someone online. It's just someone online. But I was like, okay, if he's like what you just said there is two ends of the spectrum. Like, yeah, he's not as good as Bellingham, but also you would have all these players ahead of him. And these guys were saying that they wouldn't even have him in the England squad at this point. Like he'd be fighting for the 23rd, 22nd place in the squad.
based on performances, that it's hard to argue against. Now, I don't mind him being in the squad because he is a moments player. He is the sort of person that I do think you could sub on, and if you've got enough attackers on the pitch, he can find a half yard of space and get a goal in the last few minutes. But why is there a divine right for him to be starting? I don't think it's offensive to suggest otherwise. And no matter what Gary says, and Jill Scott, who bless her was, I thought she was just speaking waffle that video. Um, yeah, I don't know why it's such an outrage. We've seen it with our eyes how they both play for England, how they all play for England. I don't know. What do you think, Connor?
And I've stood the same with Foden ever since the Euros in terms of in an England shirt. I also think the Euros had a bigger effect on him than people like to admit. It was a bit
Yeah,
of
massively.
almost feels like right now. Remember when David De Gea went to Spain, had that
Yeah,
awful World Cup, came
Ronaldo
back,
scored that hat
yeah, and
trick.
it just wasn't the same after that. I'm not saying that's going to be the case with Foden, but obviously so far this season he's not been fantastic after the Euros. To be honest, I agree. I think he's a completely just a system player. I don't think there's some players where they are the system. You know, you should build the team around them, and England always seem to get that wrong. They had a prime Wayne Rooney at one point. They tried, but they never really built around him the way they should. They whacked Paul Scholes on the left wing for a bit. They always seem to mess up somehow, and
Do you build a team around one player in international football?
I don't think you should. I really don't think you should. I think there's not only is there so much emphasis on Foden being that guy for England, they're also unfairly saying why aren't we building around this guy? But I don't think that's where
Yeah.
international success comes. If you look at the teams that have won the Euro, Spain, they don't build around anyone ever. Then when they won the World Cup in the past, Spain never built around anyone. I don't know why it's different for England. And if you are going to do that, Foden certainly isn't the guy. You'd build around someone like Bellingham or maybe Kane. But I really do truly think that there's a lot in there with perhaps just starting someone else over him and letting Foden do his thing off the bench because he hasn't been the same since the Euros. He was one of England's worst players at the Euros and consistently shoved into the starting lineup just because he's Phil Foden.
That's where I agree for sure that like I think England's the only nation where there's like a desperation to have like a
Yeah.
star and then everyone else. And I don't believe like if even think about the Brazil teams that had Rivaldo, Ronaldinho, R9 Ronaldo, like they had multiple stars in multiple different positions. But if you, even to this day, I think if you ask 10 different people who's the star of that team, people would name a different person, per every person that answers. But with England's team, like, I think a lot of people would go on in the Euros, it was Jude at times. Or like this current team, they'd go, it's Jude. Previous teams, they'd go, it's Beckham. Prior to that, it'd be like Gerrard, or even after that, or during that period. I don't think England have um I don't know what the word is without being harsh. Um, I don't think they've got I don't think they've got to grips with how international football works.
Yeah.
I know it sounds mad, but it's like, why England's
But
still the
also
only
it's
nation
the
that does
same
this?
it's the same thing where England will try and put square pegs in round hole. We always have. As Connor said, putting Scholes at right mid. Sometimes just play your best players in those positions. I've said so many times, international football, I don't know if it's because of the passion, because of the nature of not being able to tactically set up. You have so much less
So much less, much and less. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
You look at it as well, there's no reason. Yeah, exactly. There's no reason. There's no reason England shouldn't have won something since the 60s with how big they are as
yeah.
a nation. Clearly, they're doing something wrong, and England seem to always be reluctant to change things. Whereas when other countries, things are going a little bit pear shaped. Spain, after they won the Euros in 2012, for years they were in a rebuild. They were like getting knocked out in the group stages and stuff. They made these
Mm,
little changes, and now they seem that they could be on top of the world again. England, on the other hand, seemed that I don't know what the I don't want to use the word arrogant.
it's so arrogant. Like it's like even to this day, like if we're being really real, we've got England have the best league, or people would argue that, but it's been in the top two leagues since forever, since the Premier League first existed. And since the 60s, England haven't touched the trophy. Considering the other countries that have touched a trophy in that period, England should have won one at least, considering the amount of top players they've had. That's where I think there's now this issue that now England, in my opinion, actually, like aside from Jude,
I think we've still got players like Saka, Rice, Trent. We've still got world class players in the squad. You're making it sound like I don't know, we're Germany, who I still think England's squad is probably top four nations, maybe Argentina, Brazil, France, England. You
yeah, I agree, it's really good, but I think the feeling is that it's like the best in the world, and clearly that's the thing that I'm arguing against.
know the thing is also like the right back issue is such an England thing.
Yeah,
These three players like Walker, Trent, and James have existed for a long time. It's not like one's just come up and we're like, now what do we do?
yeah, yeah.
Why has it taken us so many years and we still haven't worked out who to play right back? It should just be
That's
Trent.
the issue.
It should just be Trent. You should play Ben White in centre back, and then happy days.
Anyway, you mentioned Trent. Let's move on because the internationals are over. We don't have to talk about England too much, but I think it's an interesting topic about Foden and Jude Bellingham and the general psyche around England. Trent. The question I got written down is he a Judas or not? I won't give my 2 cents because I'm a Liverpool fan. I'll save what I've got in my mind until you guys are done with what you've got in your mind. But yeah, firstly, is he a Judas? And also, how do you think this plays out? Like, who is he a Judas for?
You know what? It's a weird one for me because it's come like you've asked this question on the same day the Cunha news has like broken about him. He's definitely leaving Wolves after signing the contract. And a lot of Wolves fans, I was that bored earlier. I was in Wolves Instagram's comment section, seeing what they thought about it all, and they were like, "He's a legend for signing the contract because now we're gonna sell him. We're gonna actually make some money on him. Like, yeah, we've paid him a little bit more for the rest of the season, but he's kept us up, and we're gonna make some money on him." Don't get me wrong. it's a sensitive topic, but I don't actually feel in today's business that is football where you can just get dropped like that and that's it. The fans can turn against you. I don't actually feel players players personally feel that connected to the club anymore the way they used to. I don't think that exists anymore. So for Trent to do everything he has done, be the best right back in the country for years on end, be absolutely amazing player for Liverpool, Champions League, Premier League, everything. Does he really owe them anything after all that? In today's game, I'd probably say no. Not probably say no. I'd say no. I think he's done everything he can for that football club, and if they weren't willing to let him, sign a contract, obviously negotiations were held at some point. They weren't signed for whatever reason. Now he's leaving for free. Just because you didn't make a profit on your guy that's given you this much to the club, why
Connor,
now
I'm
would
not going to lie.
you
Even if they made a profit on him, I think they'd be running the same thing.
Yeah,
I
I
think
know, but
you
like with
can't
Liverpool
leave
fans as
Liverpool.
well, like I can see why like when the first drops, you're going to be annoyed more so because you should be annoyed that you're losing one of your best players. You shouldn't be annoyed at your best player. You know what I mean? You should be annoyed like, oh, Trent, what a player, we've lost him. Why are you annoyed at Trent for going to Real Madrid? Like I don't understand. He's when it's not the same because obviously Ronaldo didn't start at United, but I remember when he won everything at United, he went to Real Madrid. He was treated like a hero. I remember his reception when he first came back to Old Trafford, everyone's chanting "Viva Ronaldo." Trent is
But
on
you know,
that level of
before
legend for Liverpool. He shouldn't be getting disrespected this way, in my opinion. But
when Ronaldo left, and you'll know this better than me. What was the sentiment from United fans? Was it like, were you like kissing him
He was
goodbye,
Connor
or
was like no 7 or 8, no.
yeah? But he remembers Ronaldo leaving, so I'm sure he
no, I
knows.
was I was
Trust me.
there. I was there in his like final few games at the stadium.
Yeah, bro. Connor's a baller, by the way. He's a rich dog. This guy.
I was there for his like final few games, and genuinely, everyone loved him. And when he
Wow.
returned for Real Madrid, I think it was only 2 years later when he obviously scored the winner at Old Trafford for Real Madrid. Again, like before the game when everyone's, Higuain, boo, blah, Di Maria, boo, Ronaldo, everyone cheered. Everyone sang Viva Ronaldo. Like, that is if Liverpool draw Real Madrid in the Champions League next year and they don't cheer Trent, your fan base is in the bin. Like, what are they going to do? Just hold players hostage like they did Gerrard? Like, yeah, they have to. Some of them are going to leave at some point. Van Dijk's going to leave too. Is he not a hero anymore? Like, I don't understand. These players did so
Obviously,
much.
I think a lot of it comes down to when he left in his career. If he left when he was 30, people would accept it because they think he owes Liverpool more. I think they're unhappy. And what you said, Connor, was quite interesting about players owing football clubs less. I think that comes down to largely the fact that now football is like more a job than ever. So football used to be you turn up to training a few days a week, you play the match, and it's almost like a hobby. Everyone wanted to do it. People still want to play football, but more and more so, footballers kind of lose love in the game because it's that they have to dedicate their entire life to it, and that's why after they finish football, a lot of people just go off the rails or just go missing, basically.
Mm.
Rather than back in the day, everyone wanted to be a pundit, everyone wanted to be a manager. Nowadays, it's so intense that if you are going to see this as your job, you want to get the most out of your job is how I see it. So it's just the natural forces of the world. Basically, Liverpool offered Trent money. It's not Liverpool's fault. It's not Trent's fault. He was offered a chance to go to the probably one of the greatest clubs of all time and be one of the greatest right backs of all time, which he wouldn't have been able to be at Liverpool. Unfortunately, it's just the way the world works. So unfortunately, everyone's just got to suck it up and accept it. It's a shit situation, and if I was a Liverpool fan, I'd probably be upset too. But at some point, I hope Liverpool fans realise that this isn't a divine right in the situation. You just have to accept it and start cheering Trent every time he comes back to Anfield, which is definitely not going to happen.
Yeah, that's not happening. I don't even like. I don't think he would even get cheered between now and the end of the season, which I think is really wrong. By the way, like I'm in the camp of like he's given everything because people like a lot of people tweet me saying he owes the club, and I was saying, and I don't know if you guys agree, but I was saying for all the 16-year-old, 14, 15-year-old, 12-year-old kids that the club let go of, did the club apologize to them? They don't. So in this regard, like Trent was good enough, that's why he got picked. And then Trent also had to stay at the level. And I come to someone like Michael Johnson, who's at Man City, remember? Like for a year, he could handle it, and then he fell off a cliff. Did Man City apologise to him because he fell off a cliff? No, Man City didn't go. Man City I think they just went and
And
bought Yaya Toure.
he's a
That's
big
it.
reason why Liverpool achieved the success they did. Liverpool
Yeah,
achieved the league title and Champions League. I mean, if it wasn't, I think the memes were hilarious. By the way, the corner
Yeah.
wasn't even taken that quickly. I got a lot of time for that. But if you didn't take the corner quickly, then maybe you wouldn't have won a Champions League. So
Yeah.
you got to respect the guy. At
I
least.
think football fans fall for this like fairy tale movie shit too often. To be completely honest, it's not how it works anymore, man. Like the guy who came up at his boyhood club, won, a couple titles, became one of the world's best. Brilliant. Now he's not going to spend his whole career there. This isn't an actual real life movie. At the end of the day, he's going to go to the biggest sports
Also,
institution in the world.
Connor, it works both ways because people are mad at Trent saying, "Oh, I love Liverpool," and then the next minute switching up and going, "Oh, I love Real Madrid." The same way Liverpool fans have gone, "Oh yeah, I love Trent forever," and then he leaves and they go, "Oh, he's a knob. Oh, how dare you leave?"
Yeah.
So like, it's the same. It's the same concept.
I think every fan can agree that if Madrid come knocking, your player will quite likely go unless something miraculous happens. And so then I just go, in my opinion, it's like, I don't know, I can't mention either of your jobs, but if say one of us worked at Tesco and Sainsbury's came along, no, not even Sainsbury's, Waitrose came along, and we were at Lidl, not Tesco, and said, "Look, here's a load of money, and we were we've been the supermarket of the year for the last 25 years, and Lidl have won it once, or maybe twice, or 3 or 4 times.
It's long.
Bro, we're going to Waitrose. Is the equation at the end? We're all going to
Can I just say as
Waitrose.
well, Gerrard's legacy, if he went to Real Madrid, would be so much higher than it is
Yeah,
now.
exactly.
Unfortunately, it's shit, but that's the truth. Gerrard is, in my opinion, the Premier League's greatest ever midfielder, but that's not unanimous. And then people don't even consider him in all-time midfielder debates. If he went to Madrid and won 2 Champions League, all of a sudden that's fair game. So the same applies with Trent. So it's shit, but this is what happens. And I think the right emotion for Liverpool fans to feel, not that I should tell them how to feel, but is sadness. If
Yeah.
Saka left, I'd feel sad. I'd feel gutted that he left. It's hard to envision myself being so like mad at him.
Yeah.
If he went to our rivals, if he went to Chelsea or City, then maybe. But if he went to
Do you think Liverpool? So a lot of Liverpool fans say the fact he went to Madrid
that's
is a
not
disgrace. Do you think
rivalry. I don't get that. I don't get that at all. Sorry.
Madrid saw if Rodrigo forced away to Liverpool? Do you think Madrid the next time they play us have some vim and be like, we want to get back at? Yeah, we don't care, bro. And genuinely, I think Madrid are like that with every club in the world, bar Barcelona, Atletico Madrid.
Yeah.
Every other club to Madrid, like even Barcelona, Atletico Madrid are below them, and they don't actually care that much. But every other club is like, we spanked them 6 times. Like, good for them. Like, I don't think they're bothered. Like, they're not bothered by Liverpool.
It's kind of like Fulham turning around to Chelsea and be like, the rivals. Chelsea
Yeah.
Bro, we don't know you. We're Spurs and Arsenal.
Anyway, James, whilst you're here, do you think Saka will stay at Arsenal forever?
Forever's a difficult one to say, but I think, he spends the entirety of his like prime at Arsenal. As in, I think for the amount of time that he will be good enough to play for us, he will stay at us, yes.
Oh, so you're saying...
He might go to bloody West Ham when he's 36, but I don't...
Oh, really? So you think he's going to be a quote-unquote one-club man?
Yeah, who else would he actually go to, though? Unless he went abroad. But even still, who abroad would he go to?
Madrid.
There's an honestly, this was circulating on Twitter because I posted it. There's an amazing video of Saka where Arsenal fans were asked, "Would you rather win a league title or Saka stay at Arsenal?" And everyone was like, "Nah, Saka stay at Arsenal. He's our boy. He'll win us league titles in future." That video got shown to Saka at like an award ceremony, and he gets really emotional. He's like, "Oh man, this means so much to me." Now,
you know what's gonna happen
when
Saka leaves, he's gonna have the Trent Liverpool reaction. They all leave in the end, bro. They all leave in the end. Yeah.
Hey, that sounded a bit
Anyway.
too
Yeah,
deep.
I know, fucking
Made me
hell.
very happy.
Yeah. Anyway, onto a different topic. Also, by the way, I think if Salah left and didn't go to Saudi this summer, Salah would get similar treatment to Trent. By the way, like if Salah goes to PSG, considering they just knocked us out, local fans will be pissed.
Hmm.
It's just how it is, unfortunately, which is really annoying. Or if even Van Dijk, the sentiment when you see the video where he's
Yeah,
speaking to
yeah.
the PS, like there was a lot of comments underneath that going, "What a scumbag!" And I was like, "Bro, how do you not know, or how do you? No one knows that guy could have been walking past him in the corridor and gone, "Oh, bro, great performance today," and Van Dijk's gone, "Oh, safe, bro," and they've clipped it for two.
Van Dijk was
Bro.
supposed to go, fuck off, mate.
Yeah,
Headbutt
someone's
him in the
watching me.
corridor.
Was that? Do you see the Salah video on his story? It was a 2-second clip of him,
Oh,
Trent,
that's funny.
Sabosna, and Kanate. Bro, there's a guy who's got like 400,000 followers. He tweeted saying they're talking about convincing Salah to stay. Here's why. And it was like Sabosna's got his socks off, so he's obviously really comfortable. They've been there for a while. And I was like, bro, what are we doing? There was no audio on the clip. It was a 2-second
By the way, on that
non-audio clip.
topic of Liverpool photos that came out, the one of McAllister looking at Trent is so funny.
Anyway, let's move on to this Mark Goldbridge tweet. He said, seriously, go back and watch Prem games between 96 and '04 and compare it to now. Quicker, more dribbling, more worldies, more risks, just a better watch. We've been conned by this modern way of playing.
I don't.
James, I want you to give your thoughts
I'm happy
first.
to jump on this. I don't understand what he means by "we've been conned." It's no one. No, there's been no like professor of the Premier League who's gone. Football is better now. No one has said that. There's just like this idea that has bothered like traditionalists who are saying, "Oh, football used to be better. Football used to be more entertaining." I think most people would agree on that, but no one has turned around and said, I want football to turn this way. It's just a natural byproduct of tactics getting better, footballers becoming better athletes. If you watch like the way Henri used to dribble past the whole team, that wouldn't happen nowadays. And it's not because there are no Henris in this world. It's because every player is so physically adept. So Henri would dribble past 3 players and you'd have Carlos Baleba like matching him stride for stride. You've just got the gap between the best players and the worst is so much smaller than it used to be. And then the tactics as well means players aren't just chasing blind alleys. There's so much structure in football now that, yeah, he's right. Unfortunately, there are less long shots because statistically it's not good to shoot from distance. There are less dribbles through the whole team because the tactics are better and because the worst players are better. But what do you want to do about it? Are you going to start handicapping players and saying, you need to play like we're going to break your ankle before playing just so a guy can dribble past the team? Like, there's nothing you can do.
Connor's licking his lips because I already know this theory he's got, and I'm so ready to hear it.
No, you know how I feel about modern football. How the product of football being an entertainment business is no longer what it is, and you know why I think that. But you know,
Go on, go on.
okay, fine. If I was actually gonna like,
We got Matt Letizia in the room or something.
no, if I was just briefly gonna speak about it, because obviously I was on last week talking about the Sir Alex Pep debate, and the one thing I said in that was Sir Alex Ferguson didn't sacrifice entertainment for success, whereas I feel like Pep Guardiola perhaps did, because
He
now
didn't
you
need
look
to,
at
though.
it.
Sorry to interrupt, Connor, but he didn't need to.
No,
Because it was only
no,
78 points
no.
to win the league.
The thing is with Pep, like obviously he was that good at being a manager. Everybody else had no choice but to try and adapt and make it this system versus system based football, which it is now. It isn't 11 men versus 11 men. It's okay, which system is the best system? Nottingham Forest are in the top 4 because they play a really good counter attacking system. Brighton are in the Premier League because they play this recycling the ball system. But back then, I did a video the other day where it was the top 10 players from the 2000s, the top 10 players from the 2010s, and the top 10 players in the 2020s against each other. Footballers back then, in my opinion, were just better. The athletes now are better, but the footballers back then were simply just better at football, in my opinion.
No chance.
Go on. No, what I want to hear is the players that you
Okay,
had,
okay.
and let's go through it because I think that'll probably give some good context. I think James completely disagrees. You obviously did a video which I know for sure did quite well because I think I just saw the views and said you don't need my views, so I'm just going to turn it off.
All right,
Um,
do you want me to give you all 3
Yeah,
With
yeah,
3 in each
yeah,
position. All right.
yeah.
Number 10 for each decade. 2000s had Maldini, 2010s had Ramos, and 2020s had Van Dijk. So obviously they went for 3 centre backs.
I think Van Dijk can hold his
I put
own in
Van
there.
Dijk second. That
What?
was
Let me say this: if Van Dijk played in, I'm going to get cooked for this. If Van Dijk played in Maldini's era, if Van Dijk played in the 90s or the 2000s, he would have been a colossus. He would have been unbelievable. He would have been untouchable because of how physically dominant he is. Whereas Maldini was so good, kind of because he had the footballing brain that was far better than everyone else's. But honestly, I think if you put Van Dijk in that era, it'd have been a joke. I think he's so far clear of Ferdinand and Vidic.
that
I
was the
agree.
one that was the one of where I did give the 20. I gave 2 where I didn't put the 2020s player last, if that makes sense. The next one was
Go on
Kane
then.
for 2020s. No, sorry. The next one was 2000s had Rooney. Sorry, I'm just going for Rooney, Bale, and Bellingham, but like in their primes.
That's not as clear as you'd say.
I think
Wait, what
Bellingham's.
is this
I
comparison? I'm
said Bellingham's
confused.
got a little bit to do, but he probably isn't on the same level as Prime
But
Bale or Rooney yet.
we're also like comparing like peak Bale and peak Rooney were like what 25, 26. Bellingham was 22.
Yeah, exactly. No. There's another one, but I did have Prime Bale was one of the best peaks in Premier League history, in my opinion. I don't think Bellingham's reached that level yet. He won all those Champions Leagues after that as well. And Prime Rooney, like Prime Rooney, we're talking about here.
Also, people have a real big problem when comparing players, where literally what Nubaid said, where you will look at a Ballon d'Or rankings from like 2010, and now you're looking in hindsight, you've seen all of those players' full careers, and then you'll compare it to 2020, and you'll say like, oh, look at these Mickey Mouse players, and it'll be 17 and 18-year-olds mostly who haven't had the end of their career. By the end of the career, if you look at that same Ballon d'Or rankings from 2024, sure, there's probably a few guys like Girassi maybe who wouldn't be up there, but kind of the way they've judged the rankings has changed. It's not so much on legacy now; it's on individual seasons. But once they finish their career, people will be looking at and going, "Oh, Yamal, Bellingham, Pedri, Saka, these guys were all in the same era. Wow, what an era!" Like I know
Mm.
it's not going to be quite as good as the Messi and Ronaldo era, and maybe Xavi and Iniesta. But once their careers are finished, Yamal will have probably several Ballon d'Ors, Mbappe will have several Ballon d'Ors, and people go, "Wow, what an era!"
But
Do you know what I mean?
my point is, like, people talk about nostalgia, which I do agree. Nostalgia plays a big factor because everyone preferred being younger. That just is a fact. Like
Yeah.
everyone preferred being younger. Everyone preferred watching footy when they were younger, which is fine. But when I try and take that out of it, and I just think purely like, okay, this game I watched back then versus this game I watch now. I do think the product we had back then, for whatever reason, like you said, it might
Agree.
be
I
because
agree with that.
nowadays they're better players, and Baleba can keep up with Henry. But I think back then the actual entertainment factor you got out of watching a 90-minute football back outweighs the entertainment factor you get now. Because now it's almost like you're waiting for the pressing triggers, and you're talking about recycling the ball, and you got them in the studios talking about, oh, but if you look at the XG for that, whereas it
I
back in the
think
day, you
Nube,
just have
you
players
agree with
running
that,
at each
right?
other, tackles, bang, you could get
I
away with
think
it.
most people would agree with that, though.
Yeah, yeah. I think the entertainment thing is a different conversation to quality, in my opinion. Like, so I agree with you. Like, not only was I forget the fact that I was younger. If you gave me, I don't know, Arsenal against Portsmouth from the Premier League in Wenger's era, and you gave me Arsenal against West Ham in this era, I'd watch that the older era 10 million times over. Even if Arsenal won that game 6-1 every single time, and this was 1-1, I'd still
But
watch that. I hear that part.
sorry, I know, but
Go
like
on.
you said, I know what you're saying as well. But even the quality thing for me, because I thought this when I watched Arsenal Chelsea a couple weeks back. Like I was watching the game and I was like, they've both got this system. Don't get me wrong, I know there's injuries there, but they've both got this system. And like the game was so boring to watch. There was no star power on the pitch. There were no strikers on the pitch, which again there was injuries. But then you compare that to the Arsenal Chelsea I used to watch with Drogba, Lampard, Fabregas playing for Arsenal, Van Persie playing for Arsenal. I just think like the
Yeah,
quality
but
of
I
play
think
just felt
that the
better back then.
But
context.
but even those Arsenal teams, this is a great comparison actually because they're probably two teams that have really been through it over the years. Those Arsenal teams had like superstar players, but they also had like Arsenal in that sort of period. Maybe I'm slightly out of date, but had like Senderos and Johan Juru and Carl Jenkinson, like Almunia, like all these guys
When
were
people are
in and
talking
around
about
that
the
period.
teams, they'll remember the Van Persie, Adebayor, and Fabregas, and they won't remember the filler players. And then when talking about the current days, they'll start talking about Marino up front, who again was only playing because we've had a
Yeah,
disastrous injury crisis. Um, one more thing on the topic that I do think is a problem. Well, two parts of it is fitness, because one, they play so many games that I think
Yeah,
nearly all footballers essentially are playing at like 80 or 90%. No one really comes into games at 100%. But also during games, because they're sprinting around for almost 90 minutes now, when they are able to sprint, they're not basically full of energy. Whereas previously, because it was I boot it to you, you boot it to me, I boot it to you. When Henri did pick up the ball in the middle of the park, he had a full green energy bar. He could use RT the whole
yeah.
way to the goal. Whereas nowadays, like a player gets the ball in the middle of the pitch, and Havertz is gassed because Arteta's made him pick the ball up in the corner flag, go back to his own box, and then dribble with the ball, and then he misses. And everyone's like, why is he missing? And then he's falling on the floor and his hamstring pops.
I think I actually low key agree with both of you. Like, it was definitely more entertaining. I think all three of us agree on that. Like, it was definitely more entertaining. That's not ever in doubt. But I think a lot of people spend a lot of time comparing the top players. I think the comparison should be made of the bottom end of players, because that's the part where I agree with James that the quality of, like, I can't even think of a team now, but like the quality of Wolves, for example, 17th in the league, is so much better than like the Middlesbrough that finished
yeah, I'd
17th in the
agree with
league. Like,
that.
if them two teams went head to head, like Wolves would kill them 10-0. But I think somewhere between this, we have to go back to, there's a period in between, right? Like the period you're talking about was like early 2000s. And then there was a period in between, like the 2010s, where both things were existing. Like there were good teams, there were structures and systems, but there was also great footballers. Now we have like great footballers stuck in systems. Like Phil Foden, probably 20 years ago, we would actually have the Phil Foden that people talk about, like
Yeah,
the real one. But this version can never be that. This version of Jack Grealish can never be that. And I don't just mean Pep. There's also other players. Like if I look at, like, I don't know, like Liverpool using Gravenberg as a six. In the olden days, that's a box to box
Yeah.
Patrick Vieira type midfielder. Um, Even like Salah's like an efficient footballer. Probably in the olden days he'd be different as well. Saka would probably be
It
different,
also
etc.
it
etc.
comes from like academies too, because
yeah, I was going to
players
make
like
that point. Yeah,
if you watch the way Nwaneri plays, amazing footballer, but you can see he's been like refined to that exact role where previously he would have just been allowed to play on a football pitch. But now you can see like he's been molded, and academies play the same way that the first teams will play, so the pathway is as smooth as possible and increase the chances of him getting in. But a byproduct of that is you don't get like 360 footballers. You get footballers who do a specific role so well.
yeah.
It happens in all walks of
It's
life, to be
happened. It
fair. The
happened
whole
like
like
I was.
generalist versus
Yeah, I was going to make the academy point because it's a very good point to make because I remember when so back when I could actually move, I played I played a little bit at like trialing for academies, and even at that
whoa,
level,
whoa,
you
whoa,
could.
whoa, whoa, whoa. Sorry to interrupt, Connor. He was good. I hear you were very good. This guy
He's a
played against
baller,
Jude
bro.
Bellingham. Watch the video.
He cooked me. He cooked me at 14 years old, man. Yeah, to be fair, it's Jude though, isn't
Yeah, I was just saying, how's that disrespectful? He plays for Madrid now, bro.
it?
Like you just get drunk every night.
but I was at so it happens from that low. So the first academy I ever trialed at was Stoke, and that was when they went from their transition. I think it was Pulis to Mark Hughes at first. I think,
Hmm.
and even then you could tell they went from that from the bottom. That's where they start. They were telling us no more of this. Play it out from the back. Do this. This is the system. This is what we're going to play. And you don't think about it at the time because you just think I need to do what I need to do to try and make it. But when you look back at it in years back, you think like you're asking these kids to not express themselves fully with a football, not run with the ball, not and then when they don't do what you want them to do, you're shouting at them, even though sometimes what they do was technically the correct decision. You're trying to make them robots from a young age, which is why I think now you're getting footballers that are so dependent on the systems, like we said, like with a Phil Foden, where he's outside the system, he thinks, now what do I do, kind of thing. Even though he is a
Hmm.
quality footballer, it comes from the youth, and I think that is a problem that will probably not be rectified for a long time.
Do you know?
95% of footballers are screwed.
The other kind of danger with that is that now footballers are creating players for their system. Teams are creating players for their system. If they don't make it at that football club, all of a sudden you've got a very specific profile who now can't go to every single club. And then it's like, let's say a ball playing number 6, and then you say, okay, can he play in League One? And all of a sudden, ball playing sixes don't really play in League One because the ball doesn't go into midfield. It goes like that over the top.
Yeah.
So you now have a lot of academy players who are really good at a specific thing, but they don't really fit anywhere into the footballing sphere. So I don't know what the solution is to that, but there's probably a lot of really talented footballers who don't make it because they were crafted for Premier League football, fell short, and then never kind of grabbed onto the ladder.
I used to always say there's like I played for a team here. Like after I played at like a decent level, played for like a team that was full of Asian guys, and we had a guy who played up top, and he's like by far one of the most skillful players I've ever seen in my life. Like he'd rainbow flick 3 guys at the same time and then volley it in the top corner. Genuinely, like some of the stuff he was doing was like he's a freak show, and he was like 19. And in one season, I think we were playing Saturday League. I think he scored like 84 goals in like 30 games. Like he was a freak. And he went on trial at like Burnley or somewhere like that in the era where Burnley were in the champ, and he was just getting lumps kicked out of him. Like they had no interest in letting him play, and they were saying to him like, "We want you to play at." They used to play, I think 5 at the back, and they wanted him to play at left wing back, and he was a striker. He wouldn't track his man. He was lazy, like things you could coach into him, but his technical quality was through the roof. And he got kicked around at Burnley. Then he went to Bradford. Exactly the same thing happened. And then I used to always say to him like, I think if you played in like France in the streets of like Lille, you're going to like maybe not the top, but you're going to go like the second division in France. That 5 years later, he went on trial in where did he go? He was like 24. He went on trial like some random like European country, like maybe like Sweden or somewhere like that, and made it to like Gothenburg second team, and then broke his leg, and then obviously couldn't stop playing football. Came back here and played against him recently, and we were having a chat about this, and I was saying to him like, why didn't you make it in England? And he was like, no manager wanted me to like get the ball like under my feet and play football. All they wanted me to do is get the ball to my feet and play like 1-2s. Anytime I did like a step over, they were stopping training and telling me to take it back to the first zone.
I feel like nowadays to be a skillful player, you have to be like Neymar level, because for
Yeah.
managers to allow you to do things like that, you have to be so good that they go, yeah, we'll have to let this one slide. We're not stopping training when Neymar's doing that.
Yeah,
But
because even like you said, like you get the shit kicked out of you a little bit if you're doing skills, without sounding I don't really know what word to use, without sounding like I'm trying to rip England too much here, obviously, because I'm not. But I think there's a very like the Brexit tackle and all that. Whereas in other countries where you're like Brazil or Argentina or something, where you're taught to express yourself with football from a young age, maybe that's why Brazil have 5 World Cups, Argentina have 3, and England haven't won anything. Because when was the last expressive player? Yeah, probably talking about Gascoigne was the last proper expressive footballer England had, without hit him. You know what I mean? I think it has a factor, because if you're getting the lumps kicked out of you every time you touch the ball, every time you try to step over, you ain't gonna want to do it very much, are you? But yeah, maybe that has a factor as well.
It's funny because I swear, Connor, aren't you the sort of player who kicks lumps out of players?
If you can't beat them, join them. I never used to be like that, but I remember a clip where Paul Pogba tried I forgot what he tried. It was against Burnley. He tried something and he got banged by Josh Brownhill or someone. And the referee goes over and says, "Don't take the piss, Paul." And he's just staring at him like, "I was just had the shit kicked out of me. You should be booking him." And he just said, "It's like the most."
That was so British. I remember that so well. I remember just thinking, what the hell? Anyway, that's all we have time for. Thank you very much for listening and tuning in as usual. Follow the podcast on YouTube and all other platforms, Spotify, Apple, etc., etc. Follow the boys on socials as well, and we'll see you in the next one.
Peace.